attention to please take your seats. All members, please take your seats. It is my great honor and pleasure at this time to introduce a friend of many years, a great working partner here in this General Assembly, and a great advocate for Georgia, our great Lieutenant Governor, Governor Casey Cagle.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, members of the General Assembly. The joint session will come to order. All members, please take your seats at this time. I recognize now the Sergeant of Arms.
Mr. President, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Harris Hines, Justices of the Supreme Court, Judges of the Court of Appeals, await to enter this chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Please allow the Honorable Harris Hines, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Justices of the Supreme Court, and the Judges of the Court of Appeals to access the chamber at this time. All members, please take your seats at this time. I would ask all members to take your seats for this joint session as we are about to begin. Would ask the clerk to read a resolution at this time.
House Resolution 1196 by Representative Burns, the 159th, a resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purposes of hearing a message from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, inviting each other Justice of the Supreme Court and each Judge of the Court of Appeals to be present at the joint session and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I would like to recognize some special guests that are with us today in the gallery and would ask that you join me as we recognize so many individuals here today. Obviously, it goes without saying, the man that leads this great body, a person who has been a dear friend of mine for over 2 decades. I have followed his career, and I have seen his character and his integrity and the way he leads, and he is a great, great person and a great speaker as well. The man from Blue Ridge, please join me, Speaker David Ralston. Also, please join me in welcoming as well the lady from Milton, a lady who always has grace and also a strong hand to get things done. The Speaker Pro Tem, Jan Jones. Great to recognize you as well. And the man from Chestnut Mountain, a neighbor, a friend, and a car salesman. Butch Miller, President Pro Tem. I've been waiting to do that for some time, actually. Also, all the constitutional officers of the state of Georgia that are present with us, if you would stand and allow us to recognize you at this time. Thank you all for joining us. Would also ask the justices of the Supreme Court to stand so we could recognize you at this time. Good. And the judges of the Court of Appeals, if you would stand as we recognize you. And members of the Consular Corps that might be present with us in the gallery, we'd like for you to stand as we recognize you as well. Thank you all. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the First Lady of the State Senate, my beautiful bride, Nita Cagle, who's with us today as well. It is now my honor to introduce to you our Chief Justice of the state of Georgia, the Honorable Harris Hines, along with his wonderful wife, Helen, his son, Hap, and his daughter-in-law, Kelly, that are present with us today. He is an Atlanta native, and many of you know him well, as I do. He is a graduate of Emory University in 1965 and also graduated from Emory University Law School in 1968. He was admitted to the State Bar of Georgia in the same year. He served in both the State Court and Superior Court in Cobb County. He was appointed by the great Governor Zell Miller back in 1995 and obviously sworn in as the Chief Justice under our current great governor, being Governor Nathan Deal. Today, as the Chief Justice, he chairs the Judicial Council, which is the policy-making body for Georgia's judicial branch. He has also served as the chair of the Supreme Court, the Justice for Children Committee, and his numerous other civic and religious awards that we all recognize. But possibly and most impressively is the fact that he is an Eagle Scout. Even in his formative years, he recognized that his duty to God and country and to others is where true service begins. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our wonderful, honorable Harris Hines, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good, good. Okay.
Well, thank you. Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, members of the General Assembly, my fellow justices, judges of the Court of Appeals, judges of the other classes of courts, ladies and gentlemen. The year 2018 will be a year of great change and great promise for our state. We will elect a new governor and lieutenant governor, and we will say an appreciative goodbye to a truly outstanding leader, Governor Nathan Deal. And because at my core I am a son of the law, I wish to thank two lawyer representatives, Wendell Willard and Rich Golick, who will retire from the House this year, for their service to our state. Thank you. By this time next year, new freshman legislators will walk the halls of this beautiful Capitol building and will have taken their seats among many of you seasoned senators and representatives, and will join with you in making the decisions that directly impact the lives of all Georgians. 2018 will also be a year of change and promise for the third branch of government, the judiciary. Throughout Georgia, many new judges will don their robes of office for the first time. Our citizens will elect a new justice to our Supreme Court, and Governor Deal will make his fifth appointment to the court. The members of the Supreme Court will choose a new Chief Justice who will lead Georgia's judicial system. And I'll give you a heads up, the smart money is on Presiding Justice Harold Melton. I am confident that when I leave the bench as Georgia's Chief Justice at the end of August, after a legal career that began in 1968, Georgia's judiciary will be steady, strong, and situated to become the best it has ever been. On behalf of the judges of Georgia, I thank you, senators, representatives, and Governor Deal for your support of Georgia's judiciary. Your belief in an independent, nonpartisan, and non-political third branch of government has been manifested by the creation of additional justices and judges for our state's two appellate courts, by passage of legislation that has made both Georgia's Supreme Court and Court of Appeals more efficient, productive, and effective in interpreting and clarifying the law, and by recognizing the hard work of those who sit upon Georgia's benches of justice, rewarding them with appropriate and appreciated compensation. Construction has already begun on a magnificent structure that will be the first state judicial building that is dedicated solely to the appellate courts of Georgia. Each and every justice of the Supreme Court and each and every judge of the Court of Appeals recognizes full well that we are being given a building which we did not toil to build, but wherein we are permitted for a finite period of time to work and hopefully burnish the rule of law. In my time as a lawyer and a judge, among the most dramatic changes I have seen take place in our state is its dynamic growth. In 2017, we were among the top 10 fastest growing states in the nation. And today, we are the 8th most populous. I repeat, we are the 8th most populous. Growth brings opportunity, and it is no surprise that for the 5th year in a row, Georgia has been named the #1 state in the nation to do business. One of the necessary preconditions to successfully doing business is the rule of law. Knowing that contracts will be enforced as written, knowing that the law will be applied as drafted by the legislature, and knowing that there is an orderly, reasonable, and fair process for resolving disputes. The Court Reform Council has recommended the creation of a statewide business court. If you, the members of the General Assembly, approve a constitutional amendment and the voters endorse it by a 2/3 vote, This court will have jurisdiction similar in certain ways to our federal courts, and also have the expertise to handle complex financial cases. It would operate similarly to the specialized business courts now operating in Fulton and Gwinnett counties. I hope this initiative meets with your approval. A sea change I have witnessed in my years as a judge is how we view and respond to criminal behavior. We've become smarter, more precise, and more just. As a result, the courts are doing a better job of protecting society, saving taxpayer dollars, and restoring families. Criminal justice reform has been a hallmark of Governor Deal's administration, as it has been for many of you legislators. And it is not just the policy changes that you have made in criminal procedures that make Georgia a national leader in this movement, but the nonpartisan and collaborative way in which it has been achieved. My friend and colleague, Justice Michael Boggs, has served since 2012 with ability, commitment, and passion as co-chair of the Governor's Criminal Justice Reform Council. Under the leadership of Governor Deal, you ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, and Georgia's judges, policy changes in our criminal justice system have accomplished three goals. They have ensured that we hold accountable those who violate the law. They have improved public safety by reducing the recidivism rate, and they have saved money. Expensive prison commitments overall are down in Georgia, with 2017 having the lowest number since 22. Also, the crime rate is down 6%. Most dramatically, prison commitments among African American citizens have dropped more than 30% between 2009 and 2016. The number of African Americans entering the prison system in 2016 was its lowest since 1987. This, ladies and gentlemen, is historic and worth celebrating. We have made progress not just with low-risk adults who commit nonviolent property and drug offenses, but also with the young people of our state. Juveniles often are drivers of the adult criminal justice system. Locking up a youth is not only costly at approximately $90,000 a year, it is also often ineffective. Nearly 2/3 of juvenile offenders reoffend in 3 years. Before criminal justice reform, Georgians received a poor public safety return on their investment. Many communities did not have alternative placements for these youth. Thanks to you, the legislature, increasingly they now do. You rewrote the juvenile code and appropriated $7 million for communities to develop alternatives to locking up young people in the state's youth jails and prisons. And look what has happened. After challenging the counties that serve 70% of Georgia's at-risk youth to divert 15% of their delinquents away from incarceration, those counties heeded the call and have directed 54%, resulting in the number of youth in confinement statewide dropping 36%. We know that for many of these young people, what works best to prevent criminal behavior are professional interventions and family therapy. These alternatives in no way represent a turn toward becoming soft on crime. They represent progress in turning around troubled youth before they graduate to the adult criminal justice system as hardened, institutionalized offenders. A jump-out-at-you highlight of criminal justice reform has been the success of what are called accountability courts, drug courts, mental health courts, veterans courts, and the like. These specialized courts hold accountable low-risk, nonviolent offenders who have made mistakes in their lives while giving them a second chance. These courts require time, energy, and commitment from our judges, and they are demanding of participants, but they work. Validated studies have proven over and over again that drug courts produce a better public safety outcome than incarceration, and at a significantly reduced cost. In the past, we dealt with illegal drug use and nonviolent illegal behavior caused by mental illness strictly as a criminal justice issue. We often had tunnel vision and saw incarceration as the only solution. As Justice Boggs is fond of saying, everybody believes in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You do the crime, you do the time, until it is your child or other family member who is accused. But we have learned we do a much better job of protecting the public by treating the whole person and the root causes of one's crime. We have learned that a homeless veteran found passed out on a sidewalk, a man who may have slept with snakes in Vietnam while serving our country, may be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and has turned to alcohol as a result. Locking him up is most probably not the best solution. Today, I am proud to announce that as of last month, every single judicial circuit in Georgia now has at least one, if not more, accountability courts. In 6 years, the number of participants in these courts has nearly tripled. It is thanks to the support of our governor and to you, and the commitment and foresight of our state's judges, that Georgia is way out front in criminal justice reform. In the future, our successes will for certain grow, for I know that our state's judges, many of whom are here today, are creative people and are committed to making our courts work for a better Georgia. I want to give you an example of this creativity. Back in 2012, Judge Brian Amero, a Superior Court judge in Henry County, became increasingly frustrated about the handling of defendants who failed to pay child support. He witnessed numerous litigants representing themselves who were significantly behind in child support payments and hadn't worked for a year or longer. Most were fathers, and when a prosecutor would ask a man why he wasn't working and taking care of his children, the man would typically simply shrug his shoulders. Judge Amero said he got the feeling many had given up trying to pay, believing they were in a hole and could not get out. The only legal remedy was to hold them in contempt of court and put them in jail. But watching this process, the judge realized everybody loses. The father goes to jail, costing the county money. What little stability he had diminishes, and he falls further behind in his payments. The mother loses as she receives no support for their children, and most importantly, the children lose, lacking any support, and often believing their father is in jail because of them. It was a bad, repetitive cycle. But one day, Judge Amero thought to himself, why not try a different model? He began assigning each delinquent parent a case manager who helped the parent obtain job skills if needed, find work, keep work, solve transportation problems, and overcome substance or alcohol abuse. The parent was told, you are required to manage your child support responsibilities better. But if you prove you're working 40 hours a week or looking for work 40 hours a week and making a legitimate effort to pay your child support, you won't be incarcerated. Judge Amero is as passionate about these parental accountability courts as Justice Boggs is about criminal justice reform. As he says, the numbers have been phenomenal. The fact is, once the parents get help with their underlying problems, most start financially supporting their children. In 6 years of existence, these courts have helped almost 5,000 parents, mostly fathers, avoid jail time and pay more than $5 million in support for more than 7,000 Georgia children. Additionally, they have saved counties more than $10 million in incarceration cost. As of now, parental accountability courts operate in 33 of Georgia's 49 judicial circuits. The goal is to roll them out in every judicial circuit of the state. With accountability courts, the stories of rehabilitated individuals best illustrate their success. Another such story involves a man who began abusing alcohol after an acrimonious divorce. He became estranged from his children and lost his job. But following his arrest for failing to pay child support, he became a participant in the accountability court in Pickens County. Because of that court, he regained his financial footing. With his newfound employment, he began making his child support payments. And most importantly, he restored his relationships with his children. His best reward came the day he received a call from his oldest daughter. She wanted a dress for the high school prom. With his new lease on life, he was able to step up and buy it for her. He describes it as one of the happiest moments of his life. Since then, he has remained sober for more than 3 years and spends at least 1 week a month with his children. My friends, anytime we can safely reunite fathers, mothers, and their children, we are helping to strengthen families, our communities, and our state. This is noble work indeed. Safely restoring families, protecting babies and children from abuse and neglect, steering troublesome youth, the mentally ill, and the drug addicted away from incarceration are among the ways we can substantially lower the burden on our criminal courts and reduce our prison population. Now, we live in a technological, fast-paced age, and our courts must keep pace to serve those who have cases before them. One success story of importance has been the establishment of a statewide portal to bring ready access to our courts. Before year's end, it is hoped that lawyers and others will be able to go to a singular website and, using one password, electronically access information about cases in courts throughout Georgia. Presently, people must go physically or electronically to individual counties and use as many different passwords as there are vendors to gain information about their cases. This comprehensive, one-stop shop for the judiciary will change that. Efficiency will be improved, time and money will be saved, and justice will be administered more quickly. It has not been easy achieving reformation of this magnitude within a non-unified judiciary, and I'm most grateful to Presiding Justice Harold Melton for heading this effort, and I also thank the legislature for its necessary financial leadership in achieving this long-sought goal. Other important technological improvements have taken place in the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. Case filings are now accepted electronically, and records from trial courts reach our appellate courts by electronic means. Again, efficiency is improved, time and money is saved, and justice is more quickly achieved. Justice David Namias rightfully refers to the architect of this endeavor in the Supreme Court as Mother Teresa, an identity ascribed with respect and affection to our clerk and court executive, Ms. T. Barnes, who is the personification of grace and professionalism. If you will, allow me to call to your attention and ask for your help in solving a problem, a significant problem, facing our state. We do not have enough foster homes, and children who do not grow up in loving families are the ones who often wind up in our courts. By the end of this year, some 14,000 of Georgia's children are expected to be in our foster care system, a surge of 55% in the last 3 years. At the same time, the number of foster families has diminished. The increase in the number of children in foster care has been fueled in part by illegal drug usage, including illicit use of opioids. Nationally, the number of children in foster care has tripled since 2012. Even if we had significantly more foster homes, we know that children who grow up in foster care and age out of the system generally do not do as well as those who grow up in intact families. Being removed from their family is traumatic for children, even if it is necessary for their safety. Many develop mental health problems and struggle with addiction. They are more likely to become homeless and less likely to graduate from high school or attend college. Ladies and gentlemen, at their best, foster homes can only attempt to replicate a loving, nurturing environment for the children who live in them. But I am an optimist, for I see progress being made. Last year, you approved a 19% pay raise for additional child welfare workers and pumped an additional $19 million into the foster care system. And already we are seeing positive results. The Division of Family and Children's Services reports that it has an expanded and more stable workforce of frontline child protective services workers, with a turnover rate that has shrunk from nearly 40% to 10%. The percentage of foster children placed with relatives has increased, and the number of times children must be moved from one placement to the next has decreased. For your helpful action, again, I say thank you. Our Constitution says that an adequate public education for the citizens shall be a primary state obligation. And I ask you to look favorably upon early learning initiatives and the bringing together of community organizations and our schools to ensure that when each child enters his or her classroom, he or she is well fed, well clothed, well rested, and ready to learn. I assure you that if we can obtain these goals, grades will improve, graduation rates will increase, and suspensions will decrease. We either invest in our children now or pay a high price later. Another challenge facing our state is that far too many of our citizens with mental health problems continue to wind up in our jails and prisons. More than half of all Georgians who were admitted to our prisons in 2016 had a diagnosed mental health issue. We simply cannot let our prisons be our front line and most populous mental health facilities. Access to justice remains an issue of concern. Too many hard-working, good, decent Georgians simply cannot afford a lawyer to handle civil matters that often involve ownership of property, debt collection, landlord-tenant disputes, and other similar everyday legal matters. Please, ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, look carefully at this situation. Another area where change is needed is how bail is set, particularly for misdemeanor offenders. In its final year before it is due to sunset, the Council on Criminal Justice Reform is recommending to you measures for changing this system. People cannot be kept in jail because of poverty alone. I ask that you give the Council's recommendations your careful attention. Although the serious issues facing our great state are many and complex, I have the utmost faith in our three branches of government to directly confront and solve them. I know that solutions will not be easy, but let us not be deterred from our task to make Georgia a shining beacon of opportunity for all its citizens. I once asked my son Hap, when he was kicking for the Bulldogs, if he ever became afraid when he was attempting a last-minute, long-distance field goal to win or tie a game in front of 90,000 people. His answer was short and to the point. Sure, Dad, but you just have to play through it. We, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government, just have to play through the problems we face for our team, the people of Georgia. As I approach the end of these remarks, please allow me to express some points of personal privilege. I know for certain that the courts of Georgia are in good hands and that Georgia's judiciary is better equipped and better prepared to serve a growing population and to correctly resolve the complex issues which are attendant thereto than ever before. Last year, Governor Deal appointed 3 new justices to the Supreme Court: Justice Mike Boggs, Justice Nels Peterson, and Justice Britt Grant. Each is as bright as a new penny. I'll say that again. Each is as bright as a new penny. They have impeccable credentials. They represent a new generation of Georgians. They bring great energy to this bench, innovative solutions to legal questions, and they are good people and good colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you without reservation that each and every member of the court upon which I am privileged to sit as Chief Justice understands the doctrine of separation of powers. The legislature writes the law. The judiciary does its best to interpret and clarify it. And in so doing, we seek to hear the quiet but clear voices of our better angels who speak in our ears the directive emblazoned upon or above the bench of the Supreme Court of Georgia. Fiat justitia ruat caelum. Let justice be done, though the heavens may fall. Presiding Justice Melton, Justice Benham, Justice Hunstein, Justice Namias, Justice Blackwell, Justice Boggs, Justice Peterson, and Justice Grant, it is an honor to serve with you, as it has been an honor to serve with the other justices who have preceded me on our state's bench. Serving as Chief Justice has been the highlight of my legal career. I have been blessed to work with so very many fine public servants. I have made countless friends and benefited from a wonderful staff. As I close, I repeat that my legal career began in 1968 when I was admitted to the bar of our state. I was a young attorney then, and now I'm an old judge. I have tried cases as an attorney. I have presided over cases as a state court judge and a superior court judge, and now I review cases as Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court. I have been involved with cases from A to Z, abandonment to zoning, and many of the letters in between. Now, I am not a social scientist, but I have learned many things, and I am certain that if you legislators, good men and women all, put your primary focus on strengthening, within the ambit of the law, Georgia's families, improving the physical and mental health of our citizens, and providing the young people of our state with the opportunity to obtain an excellent education, you will create a rising tide that will lift all boats and provide the opportunity for happiness and prosperity for generations of Georgians to come. Finally, I want to thank the lady to whom I gave my best closing argument ever when I persuaded her to marry me way back in 1969. Helen, you are my rock, my partner, my best friend, my dear one. You have been with me every step of our journey together, and have made me a better man, a better father, and a better judge. Mother, to me you've always been springtime at the Masters. Will you please stand? Thank you. And now I say with all sincerity, from my court, the Court of Appeals, all of Georgia's judges, we say, may God bless each of you. May God bless your families. And may God bless the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Excellent. Thank you very much, Justice Hines. We appreciate those words, and we appreciate your value as well as you have led the judiciary. I will say, however, that the comments about your lovely wife, Kelly, springtime at the Masters, that's probably the highest compliment you can give, I can assure you, because it doesn't get any better than that, undeniably. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, please escort the Chief Justice, the Superior Court, and the judges of the Court of Appeals from the chamber at this time. Great, thank you. Very good. Yes, yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Governor.
Let me have the joint session's attention. Now it's my honor to recognize the Senate President Pro Tem, the Senator from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that this joint session of the Georgia General Assembly be dissolved at this hour, February 22, 2018.
The President Pro Tem of the Senate has moved that we stand, this joint session stand adjourned. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.